in the forms of questions.
सर बस आप एक चीज और दिएगा उधर और मुझे मत देखिएगा हम लोग अगर
कैमरा देख सकते हो ना if you want and we'll take a break after every question.
हर क्वेश्चन में ब्रेक
right.
Ready? Rolling, sir. Rolling.
So we'll begin with a message about the challenges that you faced, how everybody came together and solved it, and a small message that you want to give to everybody watching this.
Yeah. The second wave of COVID in April, which started in April 21 and peaked during May, was a huge challenge for the country because there was severe shortage of oxygen. And the major problem that was being faced was that oxygen was being produced in eastern part of the country and the consuming states were far away from the production centers. And during this period, Railways was requested by some of the state governments to explore the possibility of movement of liquid medical oxygen. Within a very short period, I remember that on 13th or 14th of April, the first request was made, and the challenges were that we had never done it before. This was movement at very low temperatures, and we had the overhead equipment which was a barrier. So this had to be moved as an over-dimensional consignment. Innovation that was made was to run the trailers as ro-ros, roll-on, roll-off vehicles. And on the 19th of April, I remember that the first trial train started from Kalamboli and in Mumbai, and nearly 1900 kilometers to RINL plant at Visakhapatnam. And we ran these empties, and these were loaded, brought back, and that's how the oxygen express started. And within the short period, this was ramped up, and we moved something like 522 trains, which transported nearly 40,000 tons of liquid oxygen to different parts, different states, around 17 states of the country, and to okay. So that's how, and also not only to India but also to our neighboring countries of Bangladesh. 17, okay, right. हाँ ठीक है. So we moved to 17 states, and that's how the shortage was remedied to a large extent. And this was possible due to excellent collaboration between various arms of the government, the DPIIT, Ministry of Railways, the Indian Army, whose wagons we used, the Indian Air Force, which flew many sorties to bring the empty containers, and finally the stakeholders, industry stakeholders, the association, IIGMA, and everybody concerned. And in the railways, right from the top till the people on the ground, moved these trains with full speed, and almost like a green corridor was created. These trains were run at the highest possible speeds so that we could deliver the oxygen to the hospitals. And I would like to say that whenever there is a national challenge, then everybody comes together, and this was a national challenge, huge national challenge, and everybody just came together, and we could deliver this because there was a sense of purpose, and everybody knew that lives were at stake, and therefore everybody performed to the hilt, and we could save thousands and millions of lives. So AGMA's role was very important because we had no idea of how actually liquid oxygen moves, and for the first time AGMA brought the individual companies who were like Inox, Linde, etc. They brought them together, and I remember that the first trial was done at Boisar in Mumbai, and AGMA coordinated it, and the Linde representative, they went to this goodshed where we did this trial, and they were there, and thereafter also the problems which came in the way were solved by AGMA lots of these trailers of argon and nitrogen, they had to be converted to liquid oxygen. And there also the AGMA played a very important role. And so all the knowledge about how, and I remember that we made an SOP, how the procedure for the trains, how safe, safe we could carry the liquid oxygen with safety. And we devised an SOP. That was also, we took the help of AGMA in devising that and distributing it to all our field units, who then, because actually the loco pilots, which means the drivers, the train managers or the guards, they also had to be informed about what precautions they have to take during the runs. So I think their role was very, very important in the entire process.
Okay, next question. First, so COVID-19, the very name still evokes a lot of fear and apprehensions, and especially for people like you who were managing and coordinating so many things. Those were really testing times. So, sir, for you as a person, what did it mean and how did it all begin for you? When was the first phone call or the first message? How did it start for you?
Yes, COVID, the first phase of COVID, if you remember, in 2020, was not that severe. There was a lockdown and it passed off with not so many casualties and deaths. And the number of cases had started coming down by February. But by March, again it started, the second phase started by March 2021. And by April, it again intensified. May it became very, very high, and June and finally July, August, it came down. So this was difficult, very difficult period for the entire country. And we experienced it firsthand. So many of our friends, relations and all that, they were getting affected and there were deaths all around. So that was the period. And during this period, oxygen shortage came out as one of the very important factors. So that's how the railways were called on to start to explore the possibility of movement.
So, as an IRTS officer, what were your key responsibilities during the crisis? And how did Indian Railways, as an institution, adapt to the changes and innovations that had to be done? What policy decisions, if they had to be taken, were taken?
Yes. Yeah, see, I was in the railway board at that time and my designation was Executive Director Traffic Transportation. I was part of that team which looks after freight movement. What happened was that the railway board, the chairman railway board received a communication from the government of Maharashtra and subsequently from other governments also like Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, etc. But first letter came from the Health Secretary of Maharashtra that would it be possible for the railways to explore the possibility of moving oxygen by trains. This was on the 15th of April 2021 and so very quickly we replied, although we had no idea how this would be done. The chairman wrote back saying that yes, we'll explore all options and we got into the job right then. And I was made the nodal officer from the Ministry of Railways to collaborate within a group which was called the EG2 group, which is the emergency group number 2 looking after the supply side for liquid oxygen and other infrastructure for transportation of oxygen. So we then started working on this as to how we could deliver the oxygen by trains.
So, at the peak of the pandemic, the Oxygen Express became a lifeline for so many people. So, coordinating such a massive operation at such a large scale where you have a number of players, so many states, officials from different places, and everybody was in a crisis in some way or the other.
Yes.
So, if we look at the significant obstacles, operational yes, but emotional as well. People
Yes.
were also facing some personal issues, but they had to be in charge of so many things. So when we look at the larger picture of coordinating people, and amid that the Oxygen Express was conceived, executed and became successful, saved so many lives. So could you please talk about in particular the first Oxygen Express and the people connected with it, especially the emotional part of it?
Right. See, so let me give you the how we ran the first express. As I said that we had no prior experience, and we thought that the only way possible is that let us do the roll-on, roll-off method, which is use the flat wagon to put the containers, put the trailers. Because liquid oxygen was earlier moving by road only, by road tankers, and these were tankers which were owned by the industry and having particular dimensions. But the challenge before us was that we had the overhead equipment which carries the current for the electric locomotives, which is at around 5 meters. So the height of the wagon and the height of the trailer has to be within that 5 meters, and in fact some allowance has to be made also for the induction current. So we, in the railways parlance, this is called over-dimensional consignment. So we had to see that this over-dimensional consignment is within the permissible limits, because otherwise if it exceeds certain limits then the speed has to be reduced and there are many constraints in the movement. So the first innovation that we did was to ensure that this was within that limit and we could move at maximum permissible speed. So that, because the speed was of essence, as you can understand, quickly we had to evacuate the oxygen and then carry it to where it was needed. So first this trial was made at Boisar. It was successful. We made the initial measurements and all, and the feasibility was there that yes, we could move it. And then the ramps had to be built, because how will the trucks or the trailers go onto these wagons? Ramps have to be built. So again, within very short time, within 12 hours or so, maximum 24 hours, these ramps were built at many places. The Kalamboli in Mumbai was the first one, and that's where we started the experiment. People on the ground were the officers of Central Railway, the Chief Freight Transportation Manager, the Senior DOM, and all these people who were on the ground. So I remember that on the 19th of April 2021, it was decided that we'll start the first train with 8 or 10 of these trailers. So the transport commissioners of Mumbai and other states, they were also part of this group, and we collaborated, and finally we could manage to run this train at around 8 p.m. in the evening on 19th April, and this train went to Visakhapatnam steel plant, where we unloaded these trailers and filled them with liquid oxygen, and then the oxygen was then transported to Nagpur and to Nasik, and then to various hospitals in Maharashtra. This was the story of the first train. And once this was, it came as a huge confidence booster to everybody, and that's how from various parts of the country, that is, for example, Bokaro, Rourkela, Jamshedpur, on the eastern side, then on the western side, the Reliance plant at Jamnagar, various steel plants where the production of oxygen takes place. We started moving in the same Ro-Ro trains, and then all these different states started getting served. The other important innovation that we could do was to use the containers. Now, advantage with containers is that we can move them on wagons which have higher speed potential. The Ro-Ro wagons have a speed potential of 65 kilometers per hour. whereas these container wagons, they have a speed potential of 100 kilometers per hour. So but India did not have these containers, these 20-foot containers. So they were imported, they were flown in from various parts of the world through the help of Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Commerce, the IGMA and all these stakeholders. They were brought to India, they were taken to these plants where they were filled with liquid oxygen, and then moved on our wagons and moved to various parts of the country. So this was actually a very important, this also became like a very significant contributor, because at the end of the day, nearly 2/3 of liquid oxygen that was transported in these containers. And 1/3, although we started with the ro-ro trains, but ultimately, because of the higher speed potential, better safety and other aspects of the containers, 20-foot containers, nearly 2/3 of liquid oxygen were transported by the containers. So this proved to be a game changer. And again, because we had no idea, it was the industry which innovated, they gave us this idea, and we went along. And CONCOR, the Container Corporation of India, which is a PSU with the Ministry of Railways, their wagons were used, and their expertise in moving hundreds and thousands of containers they move. But in this case, with liquid oxygen, they moved a few wagons per train. So a large number of innovations were done during the whole course. First thing that we did is, in operational terms, for example, what we call as the over-dimensional consignment. Normally, for the entire route, this is declared to be an over-dimensional consignment. But in this case, we only declared it for small parts, and we used different kind of locomotives also to do away with those constraints. And in terms of the commercial part of the railway working, we waived off many charges like ODC charges, over-dimensional charges and all that. And so that also gave a huge boost to the movement of liquid oxygen.
All this movement and all this happening when people are waiting for oxygen, thousands
Yes.
of people who may die if the oxygen doesn't reach.
Absolutely.
So, let's talk numbers, sir. So, how much oxygen, I know it may be an approximate figure, but how much oxygen and how many containers, how many trains are we talking about? And in case you have an idea, how many lives would have we saved because of oxygen express? I know,
yeah.
approximate number.
No, we have the numbers for the trains. So the precise numbers are, we moved 522 loaded trains, and of which, out of this 522, I think 22 trains were moved for Bangladesh, 24 for Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, remaining for India, for the Indian states, and 423 empty trains were moved. So total around 945 trains were moved. And in terms of tonnage, we moved something like nearly 40,000 tons for the Indian states, and around 4,500 tons, 4,000 tons for Bangladesh and 500 tons for Sri Lanka. So all in all, around 44,500 tons of liquid oxygen was moved during this period of April, May, June. By July, we concluded the operations because by the time the crisis was over, bulk of the trains, maximum number of loaded trains were moved in May, which was something like 350 plus out of 520. 350 trains plus were moved during May itself. So that's where the peak requirement was there. And to your question as to how many lives it would have saved, I mean, I really can only put an approximation that one ton I don't know, I mean, this number probably, some doctors
Maybe
probably.
we just changed the question to
Yes.
how did you feel about it saving lives?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a source of satisfaction for everybody. It was a huge source of satisfaction. And also for us in the railways, it was really a great honor to be of help and assistance to the country, to the countrymen during this time of crisis.
So, we've already talked about the role of AGMA. So we quickly go to the crisis was physically and emotionally demanding. How did you and your team manage the stress? Were there any health challenges during the period from very core members of your team? Is there any particular experience, a particular day maybe, or any decision that stands out that did make you feel, okay, yes, we are in a crisis?
Yes, actually, while this was going on, the infection was spreading, and our members of the team were also getting affected. In fact, one by one, in the railway board, my senior officers, I remember that additional member traffic, Mr. Sushant Mishra, who was guiding us, he got infected, and my other colleagues were also getting infected, and they were slowly not able to take part in this whole operations, and we lost many lives as well in the railway board itself, and across the different zones. Thousands of railway men actually lost their lives during COVID, just like other different members of the citizens of this country. And I myself actually, we started this operations on 19th, as I told you. Starting from 13th, the idea started coming in, and I was tested positive on. It was 21st or 22nd of April. It was a Sunday, I remember. And by the evening, my results came that I had tested positive. So I then secluded myself. So instead of going to the office, I carried on this operations till another week or so. And I was suffering huge headaches. I remember some fever was also there. But by around 25th or 26th, I was not in a position anymore to carry out these activities. And my colleague from Northern Railway, Bajwa, he then took over the coordination of this Oxygen Express. And but then it is like a baton, and you participate, you hand it over to others, and they will take it forward. So it is like that, because expertise in the railways is very deep, and it's always a team effort. It's not an individual. Of course, leadership matters. I remember our chairman railway board of that time, Mr. Sunit Sharma. He was always telling us how to actually do these operations. He was guiding us, and I told him, sir, I have tested positive. He said, okay, take care. But then he said that, you pass it on to Mr. Bajwa. So these were personal stories like this were always part of the whole thing. But we ensured that the Oxygen Express continued to run with the help of all the colleagues, right from the railway board to the zonal team to the divisions and everybody down the line.
Thank God you're funny. Those who survived, it's a big deal for everybody. We are talking freight and logistics management here. COVID happened, it gave a jolt to everybody. And now a lot of things changed, a lot of innovations came into picture. So now the second part of it, like, are we ready for the future? What measures did Indian Railway take to address manpower shortages and ensure staff's well-being during that time? And how are we now prepared for if something of this sort happens
Yeah.
in the future?
Yeah, so Oxygen Express gave us a lot of confidence. The first thing was that it showed that if we wanted to innovate and really take on a challenge, it was possible by innovating and thinking out of the box. So that was a huge booster for us. And some significant changes were made in the policy, as I was mentioning to you, that over-dimensional consignment, which is called ODC. A lot of ODCs move in normal times also. So earlier, for example, if you have to go from place A to B, and for example, suppose this is over 1,000 kilometers, and for the entire 1,000 kilometers, if this was exceeding a particular height, then we would declare it as ODC of, let's say, group B, which is a very restrictive, and group C ODC. There are three classes of ODC: A, B, and C. So C is the most restrictive. For example, you can't move in night. You can only move it during day, and you can move at only, say, around 30 kilometers per hour. B is little less restrictive than C. Here you can move, but you can move at only 45 kilometers per hour. A is the best. It is an over-dimensional consignment. Our Ro-Ro trains were A class. So we made it sure that these were A class ODCs. So they can move during day and night and without any speed restriction. Now, the policy change that we brought about was that earlier, for the entire 1,000 kilometers, if one stretch of even, let's say, 20 kilometers or 50 kilometers, it was B class ODC, then the whole route would become B class ODC. And there were charges also, freight charges. But the innovation that we brought about was that for the balance distance where it was A class, we moved it at A class. That means higher speeds and no charges in this case. And only for that portion, that is 20 kilometers, we would make it B class. So move it by a diesel locomotive instead of electric and so on. And then, so this is a permanent advantage which has happened because of this experience that we gained. And I think we are better prepared for emergencies. And I forgot to mention that during this period, I think it was in May that we had two cyclones also while the liquid oxygen movement was happening, one on the west coast and one in the east coast. And during that period also we managed to move the liquid oxygen. So overall I would say that we have become more robust and we have become more confident also in these policy changes. And second thing is that in our rating, and commercial practices, we brought about for movement of these oxygen specials, we brought a number of simplifications to our rules. So, for example, no charging of ODC charges for the oxygen specials. State governments could directly make a payment, a centralized payment, so that it was easy for the district magistrates to indent for these trains and so on. So a lot of innovations were made from the commercial side also. And so the whole idea was to make it very simple and effective. So that is a lot of confidence it has given us, and which during Kumbh also you saw that we moved many trains, many special trains with pilgrims during the recent Kumbh. All that probably is a result of this experience of moving during crisis periods.
So it paved the way for better logistics.
Yes, better logistics. That's right. That's right.
Okay. Sir, the questions are done. But there are places where you mentioned that the first wave, we retake this part.
Okay.
The first wave was not that difficult.
So
this
let's
may become
a little controversial. Sure, correct.
So
Let's
we retake this part where you describe the first wave in just 2-3 lines. Probably
Yes.
just, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to put more
No,
words in your mouth. It's
no,
just,
but correct.
Just telling you the tonality of it. That the first wave was difficult, it was a surprise and challenging that ways, and we geared up, which helped in the second wave. So
Yeah.
something on those lines.
Correct.
Whatever you think is fine. When
Yeah.
you say we'll start. Right?
Okay. All right. Yeah, so we can start. So the first wave happened in 2020 from March onwards, and this was the initial wave. The second wave was a more intense wave, as you know, and this started when the first wave first declined during February and March of 2021, but again it started peaking from April 2021, and then we started facing shortage of oxygen. And that's when the railways were requested to look into the possibility of movement of oxygen, liquid oxygen by trains.
Thank you, sir. I'll just repeat one more question. Not repeat.
Yeah.
Anything you would like to say about AGMA President, Mr. Saket Tikku?
Yeah, okay. So, Mr. Saket Tikku was the one who initially, gave us a lot of confidence that yes, we can try this, because initially we were very hesitant, but he said, "Hey, please let us try this movement," because he was facing genuine difficulties. The whole industry was facing genuine difficulties by road moving. Speeds were not there, long distances were there. So, for example, if you move from Odisha, a plant in Odisha like Kalinganagar going up to Karnataka, that's nearly 1900 kilometers. So he told us that the railways should start thinking in terms of this, and he was the repository of all the contacts, all the people whom we wanted to know more about the technical details. So he always brought us together with these industry people like Ranveer Chatterjee from Linde, I remember, because he was the one who did the initial experiments, and also he also gave us the idea of moving by containers. So from Ro-Ro to containers, again this was the industry only who guided us, Mr. Saket and other members of the industry like Ranveer Chatterjee and the others, many others. So I am not able to recall their names at this moment, but all of them were great source of ideas, knowledge, and also encouragement to us that yes, it could be done, and it was worth it, because even we needed that little bit of a push or validation that yeah, it was worth all the effort that was being taken. So they definitely gave us the courage and the encouragement to try it out.
Okay, we'll take a minute, sir, if in case you want to. Sir, COVID was peaking and the numbers were increasing rapidly. Could
Yes.
you just tell us about the number of cases that increased gradually or suddenly maybe? Let's throw some light on the numbers.
Yeah. So yes, I did during that period. I managed to pick up the numbers. See, India's first wave was from March 2020 to December 2020. It peaked in September 20 at 97,894 cases. This came down to 10,000 in February 21. So nearly the first peak went up and then came down, and we were hoping that it will stabilize. But to our surprise, then the cases started rising again from March 21, and you will see the numbers. I'll just quote you the numbers. 1st March, 12,000 cases. 1st April, 81,000 cases. And then again it started peaking very rapidly. 15th March, 15th April, 2,17,000 cases. 1st May, 3,92,000 cases. 6th May, that's probably the peak, the top of the curve, 4,14,000 cases. And then we see a decline. 15th May, 3,11,170 cases. 1st June, 1,32,788 cases. 15th June 60,471 cases, 1st July 46,617 cases, 15th July 38,000 cases, and 1st August 30,000 cases. So this is the peaking and then coming back to the normal. That's how the second wave happened.
Sir, just for our information, the data is sourced by Indian Railways?
Yes, this data is sourced from by me from the sources. Yeah, from the basically the not we didn't keep this data, but the